What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Obsession. I'm Carl Bethke.
I am Mike Stadler.
How are we doing today, Mike?
We're doing good. How about you?
November 1st, we both tagged out here in Wisconsin. A couple good bucks.
It's a glorious day.
It is a glorious day. You guys have been sending some questions in, and Mike's got a couple of them. What do you got there, Mike?
Yeah,
First
I got one that came in. A few people have been asking about, basically on a buck. I think mostly they're asking, when is the best time to shoot? People are asking, with the head up, the head down, feeding, not feeding, whether or not to stop the deer, or not, and when to shoot, I guess.
Huh.
So a lot of different questions, kind of all in one there.
Yeah. Well, let's. You want to start it out? Or you want me to start it out?
I don't care.
All right. How about you start it out,
All right.
and then we'll see where we go from there.
So this is always to me, I'm pretty sure you'll probably feel the same way. I think it's always a thing that comes with
Experience.
not by any means am I saying I'm an expert, but we've done so much of it that trying to judge a deer's body language, to me, I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
One of the first factors.
Yeah.
Are they doing the fake feeding thing, head up, head down? If they're doing that, they're already on alert,
Yeah.
obviously, of something.
Yeah.
Is there other deer around to distract them? Are
Yep.
they just out feeding? Is the wind completely dead?
That's a big one.
Is there wind?
Yeah.
I've passed up shots. I passed up a shot on the landlord here
Yeah.
that we all know about. I hunted for several years that the neighbor ended up shooting. And I could have killed that. I could have made that shot every day, but by himself, completely dead calm, right at dusk.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's just not a good idea.
And it was a longer shot.
It was a longer shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. The conditions that you're hunting in, whether, like you said earlier, if there's deer in the area, what kind of, what's the deer you're hunting? What's its demeanor? That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. I mean, I just had a discussion today with one of the guys that work for us about, deer coming into a decoy and da. Well, when deer come into a decoy, they're on high alert, number one. Mm-hmm. He's coming to kick that decoy's butt. He's coming to beat on something. Every sense he has is at high alert.
Yep.
Your advantage is
It's not on you.
It's not on you.
Correct.
So if you don't do it correctly, but the deer is at high alert and you make a shot, they can get out of the way. You can hit them poorly. There's a lot of variables with the deer moving. That being said, that's where the questions kind of come into play, right? So for me, depending on the condition, if a deer's at high alert and it's calm, I have, like you, passed shots. And the reason for that is their reaction time is superior to your bow speed. 100%.
Always will be.
Always will be. There's nothing you can do about it. And a crossbow, be honest, I think it's even worse because they're that much louder.
Yeah.
There is not, in my opinion, a quiet crossbow out there, and nobody can change my mind on that. If you check harmonics, I can guarantee they're louder. So, that being said, I prefer to have a little bit of wind.
Yes, I do too.
And if it's not windy, I prefer not to shoot over 30 yards. I'll say that.
I prefer not to shoot over 30 yards on everything forever.
Well, I agree. But what I'm saying is that,
your variables go up
because
as
of
the
the
yardage
sound.
increases.
Yeah,
Yes.
because of the sound. I like to be able to, the demeanor of the deer. When I say the demeanor of the deer with, I guess I'm aging myself. I'm old, so I've seen a lot of deer. And when they're relaxed, how their normal feeding patterns are. There's kind of a little bit nonchalant about their actions, where they're, like you said earlier, they're not doing that fake feeding thing where they
like to do that. Everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, you guys know the head bob. Or the other thing I pay close attention to is if they are feeding, you can actually look and see their eyes because they will be feeding and look up.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that multiple times.
Yeah.
Does, big does are really notorious for that.
Yeah, their eyes are set on the sides of their head for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, they have a well over 100 and what is it? Was it 200 degrees of view or something
Yeah.
like that? I mean, they can see a lot, and they pick up movement really quick.
Yeah.
So you drawing your bow. You know, that's walking deer. I'll shoot a walking deer, dude.
Yeah, me too. Done it lots of times.
Yep. Stopping deer. You know, do I stop? Yeah, I stop deer. You'll hear me go man every now and then or whatever, but don't go. And this is gonna sound bad in the audio. Don't go mad. You know, it probably cut out there because I did it loud, but you know,
Just
allow
subtle, something subtle to get their attention.
Yeah.
Not to spook them.
Yeah, you don't have to mat. You can whistle lightly, whatever. Don't ring anything against your stand or make that kind of noise. But you know, that's a real hard question to answer because you know the demeanor of the deer to me is 100% my decision making.
Well, I had this guy say to me that you know, when the best time to shoot them is when their head is down, because they're relaxed as they're feeding and they can't bolt out of when they're feeding.
No, that's false.
I know, and we had a discussion.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with him. He didn't agree with me. I mean, just because they're feeding doesn't mean they're not paying attention to what they're doing. You know?
No.
The one thing I did say is now if they have a leg forward and a leg backward, obviously they're going to be a little slower out of there.
Yeah.
Because they can't spring. They're not ready to spring out of the position.
Right.
You know. So we always like a leg forward, obviously on the entrance side. That's what we want.
Yeah, 100%.
That opens it up.
Yep.
You know, that I will agree with.
Yeah.
But we've watched, you know, mule deer, whitetails, antelope, duck,
Oh yeah.
spring jump. I call it the matrix.
It is.
They do the matrix
The
where
matrix.
they lean over
Yep.
and then shoot out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, at close yardages.
Yeah. Now remember this: all those animals, every single one that Mike just elk doesn't matter, caribou, all of it. They preload their muscle group. So what they do is they use the gravity to drop, and as they drop, they're actually angling their body and they're preloading their legs, their hind legs and their front legs, and then they extend and explode out of the way. It's the drop is where you miss them.
Yep.
Because you're aiming, you know, a lot of guys in Texas and out west, they'll talk about making the hard shot. You know, you got to aim low, and it does change the variable a little bit if you aim low. And 9 times out of 10, if they're preloading and there's enough time between when you release your arrow, because out west 50 yards is short, they still get out of the way. They can. So you'll see that in some of our videos. We won't slow it down for you guys so you can see it, but a lot of this can all be solved by making sure your bow is as quiet as possible.
That is for sure.
Don't shoot a really light arrow to get the speed because your noise goes up when you can shoot a heavier arrow, go a little bit slower, that 280 to 300 range. Run a heavier arrow, have more energy, and have a quieter bow.
Right.
I think is more important.
You just gotta. I think it just comes with experience and time in the stand.
Yeah.
Just kind of trying to judge and this goes to calling deer too. It's the same way.
Yeah.
You know, if you're bow hunting, just trying to see what their attitude is, what their demeanor is. You know, I mean, I've had deer I've tried to stop that have bolted.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it happens. I've had big bucks that I've cam called to that took off.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just don't know their temperament. The next day you could rattle that. The same deer might come in now.
Yeah. And the other part about that too is that could be, you know, you got to watch that too. Is, you know, 9 times out of 10 you're hunting a high pressure deer when you see that. And we're in Wisconsin, so you're hunting high pressure deer. Yeah, there's no doubt there.
Yep.
So that's one of the big things you have to watch for. You know, each animal, each hunt, each situation has its own variables.
It's always different.
And the biggest thing for me is to try to limit the variables, and any variables there are, make sure they're in your advantage. You know,
Yeah.
I like wind.
I do too.
Wind is good, you guys. Not heavy wind, like 30 miles an hour, but you know that 6 to
6 to 10 is really
10
nice.
is
Actually.
really great. Yeah, and a constant direction.
Yeah.
And that actually, I'll tell you right now that I found that most deer are calmer.
Mm-hmm.
Like the buck I just shot, it was dead calm, dude. Dead calm.
Yeah.
And I was afraid to move.
Yep.
Because I was worried I was going to make a noise and he was going to freak out. And I do not like hunting when it's dead calm, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Weather-wise, we've had that, which is rare. So,
Right.
But I don't know. I think it's kind of our view on it.
Yeah, I'd say just get out there and experience. It's going to be the best thing. I don't think anybody can tell you the best way to do it.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I think the best variable that you guys could do is try and make sure your equipment's as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
Your arrows, your bow, everything.
Every variable at one time or another will be the best. Just depends which one is which time that is or when it comes. You'll know. You know, after a while, you'll know.
100%. That's true.
And that's what I say.
That's
where I'm at.
We're gonna end it up right there. Thanks for listening to the Obsession Podcast, you guys. We appreciate you guys listening. If you get a chance, and you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the Reaper right down here in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We appreciate each and every one of you guys subscribing. More subscribers, the better. If you get a chance, share the stuff to all your friends. We appreciate that. If you guys have any questions, you can ask us right here on YouTube. Listen to the podcast at Google Podcasts.
RSS.com.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcast, Spotify Podcast. We're getting out there. Things are getting bigger, and we appreciate you guys listening. So check us out next week, and we'll have another question from the audience. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for watching. Good luck, everybody.